if we think about this as like a college class, this is like accountability 101 or 201.
You know, I like pretending to be a professor. Go
Well,
on.
This is good. We're going to go to accountability 301 or 401.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about accountability within senior teams. Okay. So you and I, this is for another show. But we have a methodology that we use when we work with senior teams, and we have different levels that we take those teams to. So to cut to the chase, our highest level, the hardest level to take a senior team to. So this is all our C-level executives, all sitting around a room. Or if you think about your senior team, wherever you might be listening to this right now, we try and get those teams to a point where they're not only having candid conversations, but they're holding each other to a standard of mutual accountability.
That is the high standard.
Yeah. So this is our 401 class.
The elusive.
Yes.
Standard.
Yeah. Very hard to do.
Yes.
Very hard to do. So I would love to get your thoughts on that. So let's take your formula that you built. Now, how do we do that with a colleague or peer? I'm in marketing and I've hit my numbers, but operations is not hit theirs. How do I have that? Because often, I would love to hear you talk about this. Sure. What holds us back from having that conversation?
Right. And
then how can we do that in a way that is healthy? So we're creating mutual accountability versus individual accountability. Not versus, but and individual accountability.
You've gone into obstacles. You know how much I love obstacles. So let's talk about obstacles.
Okay.
Because you're right. There are reasons why we don't do these things. Part of it's raw fear. People are just afraid of, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I upset my colleague? I think fear of candor, lack of candor. People don't know how to have direct, open, honest conversations about things that matter. So I think that there's always this hesitancy about, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to ruffle feathers. That is pervasive. If you take any company name and put it in front of the word nice, that's your problem. Blank nice. We're all blank nice around here. We don't say what we need to say. So that, I think, restrains a lot of teams from saying what they need to say. But how do we actually activate this? How do we make it work? I believe it starts with the team leader. I think the team leader has got to set the tone. If the team leader is not on board with what you and I are talking about, I don't think this will end well. You can't have accountability with a leader that chooses to be vague, won't confront, won't say the right things, will not hold people accountable. So the leader has got to get on board with this. But if they do, if they are willing to practice greater clarity, if they are willing to probably buck their culture and actually institute effective and efficient business meetings, if they're actually willing to do it, and if they go through that, and then they start to really take a look at each team member and really gauge their level of personal ownership, their willingness to put their name next to things. If that leader will look at all of that and start to practice, you will see steady movement in the right direction. And then the great news is that will trickle down. Everybody at that table will start to do it with their direct reports and their teams, and it starts to permeate the organization. You and I have seen clients like this where this has actually happened, but it's got to start with the top, the very top, and then move down. That's my take.
Yeah, and I think what the irony in this is we often think, at least I do, I hear mutual accountability and I immediately think conflict. Actually, what it creates is much more team and more humility.
Yeah.
So I never have seen this in practice, but I've read about it several times, that the Blue Angels, so that kind of elite
the
Navy team of pilots that do all the stunt shows, and I mean, they do incredible things. When they finish one of their missions, just one of those shows, at the end of every show, they sit around a table, all the pilots do, and every pilot has to go around and talk about what they could have improved upon. So the pilots don't go around and say, here's how I was amazing today. Because they're all amazing in their own right. We're not questioning that. But they all had to go around and raise their hand and say, this is the thing that I was accountable for, that I could have done better, that I'm going to improve between now and next time. And it's a subtle, small thing, but it does a couple things. First, it creates a culture of continuous improvement. Second, it creates a culture of individual accountability. Third, it creates a culture of humility. It's like, I'm going to reflect on my own performance and recognize it wasn't perfect. And here's what I could be doing to make it better. So there is that ultimately, so the team can get better. And I think there's something really powerful around that. And you and I have done versions of that before, and it's really telling when you do it, because you'll get that one leader who's like, no, I didn't have anything that I could improve upon. Everything was great.
Right.
And that is a problem.